Guys, you will see from these photos how awful this was. We've learned there are hundreds of assaults at this hospital every year, and nurses say something has to change. And more dramatic
where them chicks at? Where them hands? Where them holes? Where them throws? You know what I'm saying? Cecil.
This is why I train in martial arts.
Safety problem they've been dealing with for years, and the city needs to make some changes. Fox 5's Lindsay Watts talked to a nurse in an interview you'll see only here on Fox 5. Lindsay?
Jim, these are some of the pictures of that nurse after she was beaten last month. Heartbreaking to see this. Her ribs were broken, and she tells me she's still in pain. She says no one should fear for their life going to work.
When you come to work at St. Elizabeth, you pray to go home alive.
2 decades working as a nurse haven't been easy.
They throw urine on me before, spat on me, whatever.
But Latifah Coker says she's never experienced anything like this.
I suffered facial fracture. I suffered fractured ribs and have bruises all over my face, on my back, on my shoulder, on my side.
It was 1 month ago when she was attacked by a patient at St. Elizabeth's Hospital in Southeast. It's the city-run psychiatric facility that houses mentally ill criminals.
They jumped over the nurse's desk. He yanked the telephone and started hitting me with it.
Nurses say the setup of the nurses' stations is a huge safety concern. They want the stations secured so patients can't jump over the desk. They also want more security and response teams ready in the event of an attack. According to data provided by the city, there were more than 500 assaults last year at St. Elizabeth's. Since 2014, there have been close to 3,000.
We should not expect to not make it home.
This week, St. Elizabeth nurses went before D.C. Council's Committee on Health. The CEO of the hospital was also at the meeting and promised that nurses' stations will undergo construction and be secured by June.
That's on the record, Marla. This is
I'm confident, and yes, the answer is yes, and I'm confident of it.
Okay.
An attorney for the nurses union says they've been calling for changes for years.
You said the same thing, that there needs to be safety measures in place. And this is like, well, you're at a psychiatric hospital.
She hopes finally, after such a tragedy, they'll see action.
I personally do not want another one of my nurses to experience what this nurse is going through.
The hospital's CEO tells us staff safety is a top priority and that within the next 120 days, the hospital will implement a number of facility and process improvements to improve safety and cut down on the number of assaults. Jim.
Lindsay, when you see something like this, you got to imagine it inflicts a certain amount of anguish and mental pain as well. Does she plan to go back to work at all?
She has not been back since the attack, and you're right. I think even when she heals, that mental, pain that she's going through is going to be around for a long time. So she says at this point she just doesn't know if she'll be going back to St. Elizabeth.
You certainly hear it in her voice. Lindsay Watts, thank you.
This is why I train in martial arts.
This mental hospital in question has been in the DC area for decades. I'm just going to say this. I think if you work at a mental hospital and you're in close contact with patients, you should take martial arts classes. You should have martial arts training. You need some type of jiu-jitsu or judo. I don't recommend taekwondo for it because I don't think you need to strike the patients. If you want to use your taekwondo for it, use the techniques we call blocks. Now, Cecil taekwondo, what I've put together, what I've created, has a grappling component that could be used to deal with mental patients. Because I also have a background in judo. And in fact, when I was a brown, was that brown? I was either at brown or just got black, probably still at brown in judo. There was another judoka there who was a supervisor at the mental ward. I don't think it was that hospital. I think it was another one. And he asked us for techniques that females can use to protect themselves against mental patients. So, this is what I recommend that you should do if you are a female who has to deal with mental patients. Since you're female, you don't have male strength. So that means you're going to have to rely more on training. So if I were you, I'd come to a class like mine or something that teaches you both striking and grappling. But I don't mean MMA. And what do I mean by that? I don't want you getting into sports conflicts with people. I don't want you taking MMA and training for the cage because I don't want you grounding and pounding patients. I'm not saying MMA doesn't work. I'm not saying MMA is bad. Okay? I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is I don't think that necessarily fits your needs for what you need for your job because I don't want you to ground and pound patients. And it's not really your job to tussle with them. You need to be comfortable tussling with them so you can get away from tussle and either escape or, restrain or temporarily incapacitate without striking. That's why if you had a background like what I've put together that has Taekwondo, Judo, and Kyusho Jitsu, you should be fine. With a little bit of boxing in there just so you can bob and weave and slip out of being grabbed. Okay? Now what they said in the video is that they're going to start putting up security structures so that people at that post won't be grabbed by a patient. Of course, that's a good thing. That's what's going to happen. I thought that there were people called orderlies who worked at mental institutions who protect the other medical people from people who are physically dangerous. That's what I thought, because I've also met not just the person I referenced, the judoka I just referenced. I've met other judoka who work at mental institutions, and somebody in my actual blood family. Is he a blood relative? No, he's not a blood relative. He's married into the family, but he's been around so long that he might as well be kin to me. You know who you are, Bobby. He knows some jujitsu. He say he knows like finger holds and like wrist holds and stuff, and he can use them to calm down the patients without really hurting them. And he was telling me that I needed to learn that back in the day. And I think was that him that introduced me to Sterling? I think it was him that introduced me to Sterling for the first time I met him. So there are people who work in mental institutions who know that, yeah, you need a martial arts background so you can be safe from people who are very violent. And now that's not saying I'm blaming these women for what happened to them. I'm just telling you the truth. I think if you're going to work in that environment and you have to be in close quarters with mental patients, you need to study a martial art. What should you study? If you are a female, you definitely need to study a Taekwondo or karate type thing, some kind of what people think of as Haya karate. So you can get used to and you can handle people trying to hit at you and grab at you. And then study a judo or a traditional judo or traditional jiu-jitsu so that you know what to do if you are grabbed. If you come from a strictly Western background, what would you need? You would need some boxing and wrestling. Okay? It would probably be easier for a woman to find judo and jiu-jitsu classes to take rather than wrestling, because I don't know where wrestling is taught outside of high school or college. And a lot of people who wrestle in high school or college end up taking judo or jiu-jitsu anyway. And that would be good for you because you would get used to grappling with men who are bigger than you. So that eventually when it happens on the job, you could learn how to, handle it. And not only that, you may even learn some moves depending on how detailed your instructor's knowledge is from a judo or jiu-jitsu, where you can learn how to use the clothes to tie up their limbs so that they can stop hitting you. But you still need some sort of striking element. That's why you need your taekwondos. Your taekwondo or karate. Because that's going to teach you how to deal with somebody punching at you. And the goal is not to go toe-to-toe with the patient. You need to concentrate on the aspect that we call one-step sparring. If you don't know what I'm talking about, type it into YouTube. What is one-step sparring? That is where you actually would need to focus your efforts after you get over your ego of wanting to spar, of not being afraid to spar. Once you get over that, you should probably concentrate on the one-step sparring aspect, because that's, either dodge or redirect the attack, do some kind of counter stun, then put the patient on the ground. Not necessarily hit, boom, we throw him for a pwn. Not unless you have to. Put him on the ground and then escape or move away so that the orderlies can come in and restrain that person for you. And that way you get away unscathed. And the Kyusho Jitsu pressure point thing will come in so that you know what weak points there are on the body and how those weak points will respond. And you may even find out that there's some points that are more sensitive on the patients than others than it would be on normal people, just because if they're taking psychiatric medicine, is my understanding that it actually makes them more vulnerable to pressure points, not less. But of course, keep it in mind, no matter how much you train, if somebody's got I don't know how you assess the level of danger for patients, but if they're on the worst, highest level of danger and threat, you know what we say in the martial arts, sometimes the best fight is to not get in it at all. You just need to have enough confidence in yourself that you can stay away from that person, okay? That being said, please don't think I'm blaming the lady for her attack. No. I'm just giving suggestions for anyone who could be in that situation so that hopefully you can avoid taking the type of damage that she did. So thanks for watching this video. Like, comment, and subscribe. Please share this with people like to talk about the martial arts. Take some martial arts lessons. If you're near me, come to me. And peace.